I used to be afraid of you, but I don't think I am anymore.
There's nothing to fear except God.
For me, God is a disease.
It's the things that make you look at what you thought you saw in a different light. The hole in the Pentagon being too small for a plane. The lawn isn't mussed up. The government's not showing the plane hitting when many cameras photographed it.
There's nothing to fear except God. God. God.
Oh, if you already know the answers to your questions, then why ask?
It's too big.
Back and to the left. 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 Back and to the left.
Hello, everyone. Half a God's Face podcast. Fuck YouTube. Fuck Podbean. I just wanted to say these technological gods that we are being made to bow down to, they have nothing. They ain't got shit on me. Okay. They try to keep us down. They try to stop us from talking about Bugonia. But here we are to talk about the new Yorgos movie. And I know actually one of the first films me and Austin ever hung out and watched, I think, was Dogtooth, right? Way back in the day at the UC.
Damn. Yeah, what would that have been, like 2015, 2016?
Yeah, so we've been talking about him for a while, and we've really seen his evolution for a long time. And I really like Yorgos a lot. I think it was obvious when me and Austin had talked about starting this podcast, we had said to each other, like, oh wow, we would have done a Kinds of Kindness episode for sure. And now that we get Bugonia, it's all too easy. And I love filmmakers that are super prolific as well. I don't personally know if where Bugonia ranks. I really, a lot of people didn't like Kinds of Kindness. I loved Kinds of Kindness, and I also loved Poor Things. Definitely really liked Bugonia, but it'll be a really good conversation. But yeah, no, the kind of the theme of this episode is the perseverance of the human spirit, because here we are still running a podcast, even though the satanic technological gods want to break our spirit. They want to take a shit ton of view. I don't know how many people have even noticed this outside of us, but we'll post the episodes. I mean, obviously there's no video, so it's like, but we'll post the episodes on YouTube, and YouTube will, like, it'll be normal, and we'll get to like what I would consider like a normal amount of views, and then YouTube will just be like, all right, we're gonna take away like 50% of the views, or take away like 80%. This time they took away like 75% of our views from the last episode, but whatever. We're doing this for the love of the game.
Hey man, it's been rather frustrating, but I mean, while we're still alive before they pull the plug and kill us all,
No, all this shit is insane. I mean, AI is just like, there's just so much hype about like technology, and like at the end of the day, this shit is just these machines are just, I mean, they're losers. I've always hated technology in a lot of ways. I mean, my appreciation for filmmaking has always kind of been a rejection of like filmmaking form, and specifically the way that people kind of fetishize technology. Like I know, like in school, everyone is just like obsessed over expensive cameras and all this money you can put into it. I mean, any film that you see is kind of more about I mean, especially at like the level of young filmmakers, it's all about production value. No one really cares about, no one makes a film like a writer tries to write a novel, or a painter tries to make a painting. People try to make films to kind of prove how much money they raised to make it, and it's the same thing with nowadays with podcasting, with YouTube and stuff. And I don't know, I mean, one of the real reasons I really didn't want to even think about doing video for a while, it's obviously we're doing this shit remote, but I just think production value for podcasts is another one of those things where you're like, okay. It's like, okay, is this really what the point of a podcast is? To see someone's like really awesome set? I mean, it'd be cool to have like a set one day, but it's just like, all right. And that's kind of where I get with technology. It's like, okay, yeah, this technological future we're being thrust into, where AI is
Yeah.
going to supposedly take everyone's job, and who even knows if that's even real? Some of the hype about this shit, but
I had some college kids come into the bar the other night, and they were talking to me about how they just use fucking uh like
AI to
yeah
write their
for.
papers and
But
stuff.
then I guess there's an AI to check if it like sounds like an AI. Is what one of the dudes was saying, and I was just like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, I think it's just crazy, man. It's like, because we could like cheat. I mean, in our when we were growing up, people could like cheat in very creative ways, and there was always ways to like not do work. And but now it's just like, oh my god. I mean, it just seems like it's so many bad, like like AI is just giving humans so many more problems, and
Yeah,
technology in general. It's just like, I don't know.
we're
I
gonna
just
need
hate
like a body cam on the students
the
when they're like at home or they are taking notes during the class.
No, because it's crazy. I mean, so I don't know. Not to go too far off topic here before we get into Begonia, but yeah, I mean, I liked Begonia. I think we can start wrapping in kind of these early comments in with the movie as well, just because I think one of the themes of this year, and I'm seeing it more and more, and I definitely have a very particular opinion on it, is kind of movies about this 21st century post COVID schizophrenia conspiracy theorist characters that go crazy and do wild shit, or just filmmakers, or kind of mainstream filmmakers making movies about people being radicalized by the internet, is seemingly more and more of a trend in filmmaking. And I have a lot of thoughts on it, and I think Eddington, for example, I feel like it had some aspects of it where it seemed to have a grasp of what that was. And then I feel like Begonia is kind of going in that direction, but from the standpoint of someone who believes in like aliens and stuff. But it really does seem like a feature of technology in a way. Like, people are just being, again, I think there's a lot of angles to this. I think the first step that a mainstream filmmaker should acknowledge, and I feel like this is more acknowledged in Begonia, which to me is why I prefer Begonia over Eddington in the split second of this conversation. But I still don't think it's the best picture of what's happening with people being radicalized by the internet and technology and isolation, right? I feel like the first step of this problem that these filmmakers don't acknowledge, because a lot of these filmmakers, I think Yorgos is a smarter guy than Ari Aster, but most filmmakers have never, they're not historians. They don't read about history. They don't really try. They don't know how much everything is a lie. I think that's where I would like for someone to make a movie about conspiracy theories, where it's closer to, acknowledging like, okay, this is, believing that somebody is an alien, I think is closer to the truth in kind of a spiritual way than, believing that, like, I don't know, any number of things that we were taught in school, like, and then you can get into like Eddington and stuff, but I don't know. To me, that would be a good blueprint for these types of movies, to acknowledge, first of all, we've been lied to about almost everything, and then the second step of that is there a problem with people going crazy because of the internet and technology? And I think it is also a problem. I feel like these filmmakers kind of assume there's that first part has nothing to do with it. They kind of just believe everything they've been told, everything they read. So I do empathize with people called conspiracy theorists and all these kinds of things. But I do acknowledge that, yeah, it does get really off the rails really fast nowadays, where and obviously I'm kind of hinting at Bugonia, which is about a guy who goes who supposedly goes crazy and he kidnaps a female executive who he believes to be an alien. And aren't there sequences where he's like looking at internet sites that are explaining it to him?
Yeah. You're talking about Jesse Plemons' character?
Yeah.
Yeah, he he is obsessed with this idea that there is a androgena planet or androgen something,
Uh-huh.
androgenons or something, and she is one of them.
She's
And he also is an employee at the company that she's in charge of. And yeah, I guess that's kind of like some of the context.
right. Yeah, because it kind of starts out. Yeah, just because of these technical issues we've had, we're recording this like a little bit a little bit further away from when I actually saw the movie. But how does it start again? It's kind of like Jesse. It kind of shows Jesse Plemons on his own before like they end up doing anything, right?
Right, it's a lot of voiceover and kind of a lot of metaphor with the bees and
Right.
how they all have a queen and they're very obedient to her.
Yeah. Doesn't he talk
And
about bees like to her at times, like the monologue? He
oh
goes
yeah,
in monologues.
yeah, they eventually have a, a conversation about bees when you've seen in the trailer when they have her having dinner. But yeah, he's a beekeeper and he lives his past is kind of, I would say, for the most of the movie ambiguous, but he lives with his cousin who is I would say
Seems a
neurodivergent
little
is yeah.
right. Oh, what does he call it? What is Jesse's name again? Jesse Plemons.
Teddy.
Teddy.
We just lost another 80 views.
That's how he talks. Isn't
I
that his
think that
voice? He's like, Teddy, why are we kidnapping this woman?
right, but that's how
That's
he
a good
talk.
impression.
That's how he talks in real life.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's clearly a smart guy. Like in the interview I saw, but there's something about do you know anything about that actor? Is that an actor or is that like a non-actor?
I'm not sure. I mean, I don't. His name's Aiden, and he hasn't done. I think he's done. Okay, it says he's done one episode of TV, this, and then a small role in a movie that he just completed that isn't out yet.
Okay, yeah. So maybe he's like a new actor, but yeah, I mean, he's definitely the thing that's super funny about it is that he comes across as being like more brain dead than Jesse Plemons, um, in the sense of the way he talks and the way he seems like he's not functional, right? But then as
Mm.
the movie goes on, it's kind of like a running joke in a way that he's actually has more common sense than the Jesse Plemons character is actually way more like completely delusional,
Yeah,
because
borderline
he's
mental
leading him.
illness.
Yeah, because he's leading him, and which already makes you think, okay, how is this guy being led to like kidnap someone with his cousin? And you're like, okay, he's clearly like developmentally slow.
Right.
But I don't know. So what are your general thoughts on the movie, or what how do you think we should like break down this
I
film?
I don't know.
Like, what angle are you thinking
He's an
of?
interesting guy. So I mean, I think most people I think that saw this movie are aware of Lanthimos's filmography. So
Right.
there's I don't know. I when I kind of saw it within the first few minutes, I'm very on board. I kind of have an idea that there's going to be these like grand ideas and I don't want to say like politicalness to it, but
Uh,
the like what you were talking about earlier with I love the schizophrenic like 2020 internet boom.
Yeah, well,
And
I call it schizo boomer when I log on to
okay.
Facebook. When I log on to Facebook and I see all the 60-year-olds posting
Yeah.
wild shit. I swear to God, bro, with this interstellar object, 3i Atlas, um, Facebook, I've been seeing just wild shit on like I think people are literally just like making shit up and posting on Facebook. I log into Facebook and I'm just like, wow, this is full on aliens, flat earth. This is like where QAnon. I feel like QAnon didn't really exist like on Instagram. You know what I mean? I feel like
Mm.
QAnon was like on Facebook type type thing. And yeah, I say schizo boomer as in like boomers, like older people. But no, it is. We're in another era. I mean, you can talk about that in regard to Eddington. It's a little more present, like the Trump phenomena, like as far as him being such a norm shattering president. But then I think COVID, because everyone was isolated, everyone just went insane. Um, but you were saying that you were mostly interested in the Jesse Plemons character is like what made you interested in like the film.
Yeah, I would say so because I think I think he's probably, I don't know. I mean, in terms of a leading performance this year, that like could probably maybe get recognition. This is by far my favorite. I mean, he's such a great actor at this point
Mm.
that I
Yeah,
mean, the fact that he hasn't won an Oscar is fucking ridiculous.
well, I love Jesse Plemons. I remember saying this and thinking this for a while, but because I had some friends that read like I had a friend read Killers of the Flower Moon, like the book it's the movie's based off of. I don't know if it's the same title.
Right.
Um and he said that in that book the Jesse Plemons detective character has a way larger role.
Yeah, it's kind of
And
like the main protagonist from perspective of like
yeah,
kind of like figuring out this mystery, right?
right, that's what I heard. And I think when I heard that I did understand why you would read the book and then be like, "Ah, okay, I wish he was in the movie more." But he's in the movie in such an understated way. It really is like one of my favorite performances of the last couple of years because it's so understated. He has so few lines. And so Jesse Plemons, he can play this archetype of like kind of someone that's like quiet. And there were just really bizarre like dream sequences slash flashbacks that would be like in black and white in this film
Yeah.
where he really went fully into like he really has this like disturbed person look because wasn't Jesse Plemons wasn't his breakout in Breaking Bad?
Oh yeah, for sure.
You saw Breaking Bad, right?
I mean, I know that he's didn't he play Todd?
Bro, I think this is gonna piss off so many people that I haven't seen Breaking Bad in years. I'm forgetting the details, and you haven't seen the show. But I'm pretty sure. You don't mind if I just say like a infamous spoiler, right?
No, I mean I know all the spoilers. You're good.
I'm pretty sure he like kills a kid or he does something, and then
Yeah,
he
they're
like kills
doing
a kid like ruthlessly, and then he's like buddies with the neo Nazis in Breaking
yeah.
Bad. Like he's like good friends with them. He has just this like detached look, and that was really his breakout role. And I remember him from The Master, and I didn't even connect the dots. It was the same
Mm.
actor almost until recently where I'm like, oh my God, he was in Breaking Bad. I completely forgot. But he has that ability to be either understated or I would almost say Kinds of Kindness is the most he's been like pushed to like really like go out of his I'm not going to
Yeah.
call it a shell because I think that is the genius of Jesse Plemons is you can see that he's withholding something. And there's a lot to say about acting. um if you start talking about acting in a very conceptual way, I think it's easy to not really have an open mind about different types of performances and stuff. But I think in general, the rule of thumb, the way I would look at it is that in real life, we try to hide what we're feeling on our faces. Like when we exist, like if I'm sad, I try not to show people that I'm sad partially because I don't know if that's just like how I've been raised or I feel like I am a fairly reserved person in that way, but it also is just being polite. So a lot of performances that people don't like are when I'm sad and I project being sad, right? It's a
Yeah.
contradiction that's not real. Like in real life, we hide our emotions. And the actors that they're so talented, they can show that they're hiding something rather than just showing something. And again, I'm not trying to say that there are people that, like, we've had episodes on this show talking about different actors and stuff. There's great actors that are very over the top and can be larger than life, but you really see acting in a very distilled way where I think you're closer to what acting really is when you have people that are like hiding their motivations and stuff. That being said, we can almost talk about Emma Stone in that way. I mean, between the two characters, because even though Jesse Plemons has this kind of unhinged, like slightly like loner type of vibe, like the idea is that he's kind of a loner that got radicalized on the internet who thinks that aliens are going to, excuse me, wipe out the population of the earth. And so he wants to kidnap Emma Stone, who's like an executive. Uh, and I feel like her motivations are harder to read in this movie, but it still feels also like a vintage Emma Stone kind of performance. But yeah, Jesse Plemons in general is pretty straightforward as far as like it's not like he's having to hide his emotions in the way that I was just explaining. I was more just saying like in general he is great at that. You know, he's great at really leaning into being playing characters that are trying to hide their motivations. But it is interesting when you see him just go full psycho.
To me, it was pretty scary.
Oh yeah,
I think
that's the
it's the
thing with this.
scariest part of the film is basically the fact that you're very unaware of, I would say, the potential this guy has to just be like, oh, screw it, and just like cut her throat or something.
No, that is true.
Because there's no real like line that is like he's going to achieve his goals or he's going to actually keep her prisoner. Because I don't know, I was not buying that Emma Stone wasn't just going to get offed at any moment. And like I said, with I don't know, like seeing Lanthimos films, like I would have been shocked if she was like kind of like the Janet Leigh vibe, where it's just like, yeah, she's in the movie the first 30 minutes and they just like shoot her in the face, you know?
That would have been crazy.
Yeah, she's like she's like the hottest actress on top of the world right now, and they just you know, because he doesn't owe her anything. He's got her like an Oscar and all these great performances, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just it kind of felt like I don't know, it kind of felt like Bruno Gans playing like a Hitler. No, I'm kidding.
Bruno Gans playing Hitler.
Yeah, that's my comp.
Man, that is a lot. I mean, for Bruno Gans to Jesse Plemons or for Emma Stone.
Yeah, pick your. I don't care.
Oh my god, yeah, that performance got controversy too at the time that it came out. Bruno Gans in that movie, but no, I think you're right that because I was watching the movie, really loving like the music. The music was just really great, and it had like this kind of Kubrick, like he flirts with kind of a Kubrick over the top vibe at times.
Like the score specifically, I was thinking about that.
Yeah, and he's had other movies where he does more spectacular kind of cinematography and stuff, but it's really paced in this kind of way because they kidnap her. They shave her head because they think that's how she talks to the alien mothership, and then they cover her in like cream or something.
Yeah.
What did they cover her in again? Like coconut oil or?
I don't know.
But it's like it looks like sunscreen. So she's just like a lot of the imagery that's coming out of this movie is her like in this like really like super white looking, and she's already a white chick, but they like cover her with this cream, so she's bald with all this cream all over her. And it's kind of confusing as a viewer what the movie is like, what direction it's going to go, because I went in thinking it's kind of like a horror movie, also at the same
Mm.
time that it's probably like a science fiction film a little bit or something weird. And it really does kind of play out like a horror film, because she is kidnapped, and at first you're like, is she going to be able to convince them? Like, because like you said, it really is scary where he's like the look he has in his eyes where he's like, oh yeah, we shaved your head because we don't want you to go back to your ship. It's like, oh Jesus. Like,
Oh no! Oh no! That's why it's brilliant when she's like, okay. She's
it's
like,
oh my
yeah.
god. It's kind
She's
of crazy seeing Emma Stone, because I really didn't like her too much in Eddington. I didn't. I feel like her role was very strange, like
d-
how it was written,
yeah.
and just she didn't really have much of a role. And just seeing her in this made me appreciate her more again. And it's kind of surreal. We're at this place where Emma Stone is just a total icon, and I think now that she's playing like an executive, there's something really funny about it. But I didn't know where it was gonna go, and there were definitely times where I was like really had a tough time watching. But before we get to like the really horrific, like a horrific scene, another draw of this film was that Stavros is in it,
Oh my
former
god.
one of the best comics, and has an amazing his podcast. Stavi's World is so funny. Like that's a podcast I'll throw on if I really want to laugh and like have a good time, because he's just a notoriously great like roaster, on top of
Yeah.
being great at like riffing. And on when he was on Come Town with Nick Mullen and Adam Friedland, they would always just attack Adam. They would just savagely to like bully Adam, and they just always would have like jokes about getting fucked up the ass and making any just doing voices of
Have you
famous
heard what he
characters.
said about Emma Stone and like shaving her hair?
No, what do you say?
He's basically like, it's complete bullshit. Like, I had to shave my fucking hair for this film, and nobody gives a shit. Jokingly, of course, but yeah.
Yeah, he has a vibe that's like very effortlessly funny, because he was kind of known as the whole experience of people that listen to Come Town was essentially you would listen to the show, and at first you would think, man, this guy who's laughing nonstop, this is really annoying. And then over time, because he laughs
He
so much, he
does.
laughs so obnoxiously, and he's playing like such a different type of role. Like you don't really see Stavros like his actual personality, but when you listen to that podcast before they all split up, at first that's what you would think, and then the more you would listen to it, the more you appreciated his laugh, because he was so good at because he laughs at a lot of stuff, which I appreciate that he like. I think a lot of it is genuine too. Like he just likes laughing. He likes kind of like bringing the energy up in like a room. But a lot of it was that Nick Mullen is like an insane genius, like comic mind who can just create the most insanely funny like scenarios and just have like a very complex, like he could just make up entire like stories, and Stavros would like be dying like at all his different bits. And the more you listen to the show, the more you're like, oh wow, I kind of think that, because I love Nick Mullen, but now he's kind of dropped off the face of the earth. That he was doing the Adam Friedland show for a while, and he just stepped away. Now Adam is just doing his own thing, and Nick is just like not doing anything.
Mm.
And it kind of sucks, because it's like one of my favorite comedians like ever is Nick Mullen. And kind of the charm of Stavros was that he would really show how funny Nick was, because Nick was just such like an alpha as far as like constantly being hilarious like every second. But he's kind of a strange antisocial kind of presenting guy. And Stavros has just kind of had a huge career now in comedy, and everyone just loves him. So seeing him in a Yorgos movie is really surreal, because they were the ultimate like kind of underground comedy podcast for years, like with a cult following. And I think the New York Times just did a piece on Stavros. Did you see that?
I did not.
Dude, it was so cringe. It's just like, and some bits are like this, and it's like, okay. like the like the newspaper, like the New York Times piece is like, wait, how are these guys all leftists who are supporting Zoran Mamdani and they're saying offensive words and they're
Right.
making dark jokes? And it's like, okay, whoever wrote this article is clearly like a 50-year-old who, doesn't have any idea how people talk, or young people, or I don't know. And politically, I think that's definitely their vibe, is that between Stavros, because I think they all endorse Zoran,
Right.
Stavros, and Stavros has actually kind of become, and they're all friends with Hassan Piker too.
Uh-huh.
Fucking Stavros and Adam have both gone on his stream, and they're clearly all friends. The Hassan Piker episode of Stavi's World is actually really funny,
I've
but
seen that, yeah.
yeah, and I don't know. I don't have too much of a strong opinion about Hassan Piker. I mean, I think he's clearly not the smartest guy, but I think he's funny. I don't hate him. A lot of people really like either hate him or love him. I think he's funny. I don't have really a bad opinion on him. I don't think he's a political analyst. He's more just like a likable personality. But it is fascinating that there's this entire underbelly of Stavros, like, well, obviously literally and figuratively, being a large, being a incredibly,
What the fuck?
incredibly fat guy.
Sure.
But yeah, he's kind of become famous because I think Ben LaBelle said this. Ben got offended because when I was in LA, I said that Ben is like Adam Friedland, and Ben was like, "What?" I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, I thought that's a compliment. I said that to other people. They're like, that's an insult to say that Ben is like Adam Friedland. I'm like, why? But Ben made this point when I was in LA. He was like, you got to have a funny fat guy. Funny fat guys are a big deal. They really resonate with everybody, and that's what Stavros is. And he's funny in this movie, but I was a little bit. I feel like of everything in the movie that I was the most like confused about, I think I was the most confused about his like role, because he's like this cop that used to be friends with Jesse Plemons, and just as like a again, you don't have
Yeah,
to
you could say that.
factor in all this stuff. No, he was the former babysitter, to be more specific, which it's like, okay. Because when I saw the movie, I was like, okay, maybe it was just our screening. I don't remember Stavros's role being that funny, is kind of my
Mm.
roundabout way of giving all this context and being like, I was kind of surprised that that Yorgos really tried to use him. I mean, again, you can look at his like scenes and like find them funny, especially like on a second viewing. But with an audience, when you don't know the context too much, I mean, I don't know what your experience. How many people did you see this with, by the way? Like in terms of how many people were in the theater?
So I saw it November 4th on a Tuesday night, and I would say there was about 20 people in the theater.
Okay, was that like a how full was it in terms of like the size of the theater?
Like a fifth.
Okay, so it wasn't that many, but it was a solid enough crowd.
Yeah.
So would you say this movie got a lot of laughs, or?
Um. The, I there was a couple that we kind of met after the just talking out of the after the screening that were laughing the whole time, but I would say like me and that couple were laughing a lot, but I didn't really hear that many.
Okay, yeah, fair. Because it really comes more, because I feel like Yorgos, he has different genres of film. He makes like the killing of a sacred deer type stuff, and I feel like that's more like what this is, where it's more serious. And then he'll do like Poor Things or kind, like he bounces between psychological thriller that are uncomfortable and are very intense, and then he'll switch to like gross comedy.
Hmm.
And I've made this comparison before, but there's a filmmaker, I believe, from, I forget what part of Yugoslavia, but he made the film Sweet Movie. A guy named Dusan Makavejev, who is an iconic filmmaker, and that's the filmmaker that I think is the most. I think that's the most influential on Yorgos, in my opinion, because he's so obsessed with like the body and all this kind of stuff. Like, and so it kind of makes sense him making like a body horror movie.
Huh.
But no, I feel like he definitely bounces back and forth between like a gross comedy and like a really intense film. Because I'm trying to remember. I
Okay.
don't really remember. I remember me and Joe looking at each other, being like, "This is fucked up," and being like uncomfortable. But I don't remember how much we laughed because Stavros comes in the movie and it's like I think he just kind of says hello to Jesse Plemons. He's like, "Hey, man, yeah, let's hang out sometime." And you're like, "What the fuck?" It's like a
Yeah.
police officer. Doesn't he like pull him over the first scene he has with him?
Yes, and he's always like, "I know what you're thinking." Like, "Gee, what's this guy doing here?" Like, he says that like 5 times in the.
Yeah, no, he's. If you know that Stavros is one of the funniest people on earth, I think he comes across really funny in this movie. But Yorgos really kind of uses him similar to how he uses Jesse's sidekick, where I think he's trying to create this like juxtaposition where he's like, this guy just doesn't have a body suitable for film. Like
Mm,
Stavros, like he, in similar to Jesse's co-star, the autistic guy, he definitely he definitely comes across very quickly as authentic. You know, I mean, I don't know exactly how. I mean, I saw an interview with him, and he honestly seemed like a brilliant guy. I mean, I saw a huge Q&A with the cast that was pretty cool to see. Um, and he was talking a lot. So he seemed pretty like outgoing,
mm,
this guy, this Aiden guy. And he was really funny. I mean, he said that the funnest day on set was when so they capture Emma Stone and they go upstairs and they start hugging and dancing. They start jumping up and down.
right.
And he said that was like the most fun day on set because they were just ecstatic. And I was like, okay.
Huh. And it's
I'm like,
just
and
in
then
the movie.
I think he said that they were always joking about because at a certain point, so really, just to get right down to it, and I kind of like this scene because it was so uncomfortable. They basically torture Emma Stone at at one point.
Oh my god, that was yeah. So the song, oh god, what basket I think it's Basket Case by Green Day, and it was in the trailer. And I remember
No.
I saw the movie with my buddy Colt, and he was like, "Dude, if they don't use that," because he's like the biggest Green Day fan I've ever met, and he's like, "If they don't use that in the movie, I'm going to give it 0 stars," like kind of
No.
jokingly. And
Oh
then
my
it's played
god.
in arguably the most fucking disturbing scene in the entire movie when they're I don't even know how
Woo.
to like articulate what they're doing. Maybe you can do that better than I can, but they're basically like fucking electrocuting her, right? Or
Yeah, I didn't know what she was strapped into, and Jesse Plemons is just like I forget how he even explained it. He like explained it as if they need to like keep the aliens from being able to communicate with her or something like that, right?
right.
It had to have been something like that. So the reasoning is already kind of scary, and I know they were kind of butting heads and stuff. And he's increasingly getting like really short with Emma Stone because she's very much like, "I'm not an alien." He's like, "Shut the fuck up." He's like getting more and more. He's getting more and more like you're trying to like lie to me, and I'm not gonna be tricked by you kind of energy. And so
Yeah.
then at a certain point, he's like, all right, I'm just gonna strap her to an electric chair. And he starts fucking going up this like monitor thing. And Emma Stone's performance there was really disturbing because she's like
Yeah.
in so much pain that you're like, oh my God, this is literally like a man like torturing a woman. And the first viewing of the film, you're literally like, this is absolutely insane. Like what, like, I don't know. It was hard to watch in a way where I was like, damn, I think as a filmmaker myself, I just don't think I'll ever really feature like violence in films or
Oh.
like torture, like especially in the films that I make. I don't think
Yeah.
it is artistically a problem because I believe that films that are divisive or films that have scenes that are hard to watch intentionally, I think that's well within people's, toolkit, let's say. And there are plenty of filmmakers that have done that amazing. And you see their films, you're like, oh my God, that was hard to watch. And honestly, yeah, that is, looking back at it, that is one of the best scenes of the film for me, just because it's so inhumane and it's so like, I mean, I was like looking at Joe like, oh my fucking God. Like I was like, oh my God, I want to tap out of this right now. Like her, like the noise that she's making and the way he's just ratcheting up like the scale of how painful it is, and the way that you're just like, you can tell that he's like about to kill her. And then his autistic cohort is like, he's like, stop doing that.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, it's definitely a surrogate for the audience because you're like, oh my God, like.
Right. And like we were
I
saying
thought
earlier,
for a second, yeah, that when I was saying earlier, I thought she was actually gonna. Well, I guess spoiler. I not really spoiler, but I thought she was going to die right there.
right.
I'm like, because I thought,
Yeah.
at least in terms of some sort of like realism, that I do think Lanthimos like plays with almost
Mhm.
that it's like hyper realistic. I was like, there's no way like if he keeps doing this, she's just gonna fucking live, right? Like I don't believe he's going to.
Yeah, because he was ratcheting it up, like, and he kept going further and further on the scale, and it just is really a really freaky scene because I mean, because I thought in the beginning of the movie, I'm like, damn, I think they torture her in this movie. I think this is going to be a really scary movie. And then seeing that scene, though, it was like, oh my God. And so he stops. I think his partner makes him stop or something. And it's just
Well,
like, oh
then
my
it
God.
kind of changes the result of that kind of changes the rest of the movie, right?
Okay, what do you mean?
Well, I guess like her pain threshold, he like assumes that she is like an emperor or an empress or something, right? Or has some sort of like status as the alien, that she's one of the like royalty because she was
Yeah,
able
yeah.
to withstand so much pain.
Because at a certain point, she starts leaning in because she's like, okay, I'm not going to convince them I'm not an alien. So she starts leaning into being an alien at a certain point.
Right. Yeah, that I think that kind of like turns the page of the movie because then there's so many.
That's an interesting point because maybe Jesse Plemons, yeah, thought that because she didn't die, then she has to be an alien at this point, or like a high level alien.
Yeah. Um fuck, I mean, well, we'll get to it. I'm just thinking of like so many things to think about with that, but there's almost like also scenes where I don't know, I've heard and listened to reviews where they say, well, you really don't know anymore. You really start to think she might be an alien.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's like necessarily I would say like agree with that in that sense, but to me it's more like whatever is the truth has not like changed. There's been like no revelation. Like either I think she's been an alien this whole time in this moment and it's just this is how we're finding it out, or I mean the alternative is just as disturbing, that they're really just torturing this person and I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, because then I think it's the cop shows up at their house because he just wants to be friends with Jesse Plemons.
Well, I don't know if yeah, I mean we can talk about that, the fact that what he basically molested him when he was younger, when he was babysitting him. And he
Well,
has this like horrible.
so the cop shows up at the house, and you're like, Jesus Christ! Now they have this woman hostage, and this guy who, at first, you're like, okay, this guy used to have a relationship with the Jesse Plemons character, and then he kind of reveals, like, hintingly that, oh yeah, I used to babysit you, and like, did he apologize? He said like, I'm sorry or something like
He was
that.
like, dude, I don't know, man. Like it was so. I don't know if it was like weird power dynamic or something I was going through, man. Like I was just power tripped, but like, dude, I'm sorry. And he's just like, Jesse Plemons. Probably the duality of the scene is hilarious because he probably does want to just not talk about it, but he also just doesn't want to fucking talk about it because there's a person in his basement who he has
Yeah.
locked up. And I don't know. That's where I really appreciated the Stavros character, I think, because I thought it is kind of cliche to have like oh, the cops peeping around the house, you know. But he
Right.
just is so unassuming because like of course this fucking kid who you molested when he was younger would be a fucking whack job. Like you wouldn't like he's got like blood on his like shirt, right? And it's just he's putting tinfoil over the windows in his house, you know? Like it kind of
Yeah.
added like a new layer to that, and I think helped really take something that you've seen in movies before like a million times, but I loved it.
Yeah, because I think he comes over being like, "Oh, this woman was like kidnapped," and we think that it like, do you know anything about it? But then he starts getting into, "Oh, well, I'm sorry, I molested you," and you're like, "What the fuck is wrong with?" And it's cutting between that and the Don guy. His
Oh yeah. That's
he's
another.
talking to Emma Stone, and Emma Stone is like really leaning into being an alien, I believe. Or no, she's saying that this is crazy. Like you gotta like let me go type thing, right?
Right. And she's been very up until this point in the movie very I mean if let's just say in terms of she isn't an alien, she's been kidnapped. She's doing really her best job to try to get out of this situation. Like I don't
Yeah,
think there's anything better she could have done, and she's really trying to use. I don't know. She seems a very easy. Like she has the ability to manipulate people,
right. Yeah,
and
and then
like the
so
position of power that she has. Obviously, being a CEO is implied, but
yeah, no, because there are some really funny lines from her character where she's like showing how ruthlessly she's like a capitalist type of person, and it's like really funny that because she's as a human being, you don't want to see someone held against their will and like tortured and all this. I mean, especially a woman. I mean, it's just horrific. That torture sequence, you really empathize with her, is where I was at. But then she has all these scenes where she's just like clearly such a ruthless careerist person that there's some degree of like class comment there, as far as
right.
that's probably also factors into why Jesse Plemons thinks she's an alien, is she is like kind of analytical enough to succeed in society. It's this idea of like a successful like outsider type of vibe. But I believe she convinces the dude that like this is absolutely crazy, and then he just puts the shotgun in his mouth. And you're like,
Oh yeah, that was actually to me was really sad.
yeah. I don't mean to laugh. I usually laugh in terms of
No, it's
just things
crazy.
just things being shocking. I
Right.
got to be honest, I do think I laughed when I saw that in the theater, but I didn't laugh as in, "Oh, this is awesome." I laughed as in like, "What
Right.
the
Like,
fuck?"
oh Jesus.
Yeah, and also it's a crazy conclusion that he reaches because I don't think she said to him, "Kill yourself." Like, what he just sees the situation as like he's gonna get popped, like he's gonna get arrested.
Yeah.
Is that the way I took it? And then Jesse Plemons is showing Stavros the bees, and then he hears the gunshot, and then so he hears the gunshot, and then he just decides, like, okay, fuck it, I'm just gonna throw bees on him and then shoot him in the
That
head.
was funny when he was just killing Stavros.
It is really funny that Stavros just gets immediately aggressively killed, and that, like, getting into like the spoilers of the film at this point, when he goes down into the basement. And there's just blood everywhere, and Emma Stone is like, "No, he did it to himself."
Yeah.
It's like, holy shit. Because at that point, like, you bring up a good point that there is there when you see a movie where a character is clearly crazy and he thinks someone is an alien, the ultimate thing that you're thinking in the back of your mind is this movie should lean into that. That's kind of almost where I started this conversation with that there's truth inside every conspiracy theory is like the way I would put it. Some shit is just totally true. Like we've talked about all kinds of history on our show before, and just a lot of
Right.
historical events have been blatantly lied about. JFK, 9/11 as well. And when you start talking about aliens, it just gets so crazy so fast because so much of it is like witness testimony, and a lot of it is like, in this
Jimmy
age of this,
Carter.
well, the Jimmy Carter stuff is kind of interesting, but in this age of disclosure, it's very bizarre because you always have these people that work for the government, that are patriots, that would do everything they can for the U.S. government, which is already kind of a red flag on authenticity. Where you're like, okay, but why aren't you like just doing that now? So all the people who are saying aliens are real, who are like, yeah, I worked on a government project and all this stuff. It's like, okay, but aren't you? Doesn't that just like, why is it that because at one end of the spectrum, it's like, okay, for us to believe aliens are real, the government has to acknowledge it. But then there's another side to it where you're like, okay, but why doesn't like an outside observer just have compelling footage? You know what I mean? Like, why doesn't, like, if there's all
Hmm.
these witnesses that have seen objects and aliens and stuff, why is there no, I mean, maybe they're just scrubbing the internet and stuff, but point I'm making is when you're dealing with an unreliable narrator, as in one of your main characters is crazy, you might as well lean in. And when Jesse Plemons goes downstairs, she really seems like an alien for sure, because she got his helper, he got his like buddy to kill himself in his mind.
Well, there's also like the people that we were talking to after the screening mentioned there's this weird like shutter thing going on when she's like talking to his cousin where it's like "Duh, duh," like and it's like shaking. So it's
Right.
almost surreal where you don't know if it's what's the word? If it's real or not. Where like maybe she is having this like mind control over him to make him do it, but it's
You thought
also
so?
I thought I didn't think so. I think he just did that, but I was
That's interesting. I didn't
wondering.
notice that.
Yeah, I think if you rewatch it, you'll see like the while she's like talking. She's like,
Oh
"Don, you
wow.
gotta listen to me," and she's like, she looks
Well, because I
really fucked up when she's talking to him.
right, because I thought she was trying to tell him not to shoot himself in the face. But the way you interpreted it also makes a lot of sense, because I feel like when Jesse Plemons comes back into the basement after he's killed Stavros and he sees all this blood everywhere, I was like, okay, he's just gonna kill her. Because this is like insane. Like I never thought the movie would get to this point where she would succeed in killing one of the people like on accident, just freaking him out enough where he did it, or like you're saying, maybe he actually did it. So I think that's maybe where you start to like question. And I feel like she like she totally convinces him just to follow what she says at a certain point. And I think it's in connection to that, where she's like, okay. And doesn't she figures out that like, I forget when it happened, but she figures out that his like mom used to work for her company, and his mom like had like an accident or something, and she's like in a coma
Yeah.
or something. So that's the other backstory you start to figure out, is that it's not really so random that he kidnapped this woman. It's that his mom worked for her company and got injured, and then probably wasn't given like as much money as she like deserved or something. And then he's like, okay, I'm gonna like kidnap this woman who did this to my mom, because only an alien could do this. But she basically says that if you take me to like my work, then I can revive your mother from like the coma or something like that, right?
Well, no, she well, she says that she has like this stuff in her car that can like help his mom, and she's like, it's an antifreeze bottle, but it's not actually antifreeze. It's the dialogue's so crazy that she's like, it's not actually antifreeze. It says it's antifreeze to confuse people like you, but it works. And then he literally just fucking goes to the hospital and just kills his mom because it's
I
actually
forgot.
antifreeze, I
I actually
guess.
did kind of forget about that, and that's where I was like, "What is this? What is she trying to accomplish? Just making him, just telling this crazy person to give his mom antifreeze and then killing her."
Right, and this is where I just lose some confidence, where I wonder like what really is Emma Stone up to, because not that it's like bad, it's just confusing to me. And then she
Well, see,
finds
that is a pretty immoral thing to do, to tell a schizophrenic man that giving his mom antifreeze will revive her.
I mean, I don't know, like
Like, 'cause how could she escape at that point? Like, how does that help her case of escaping?
before he leaves, doesn't he like hit her in the knee with a gun and like fucking dislocates her knee or something?
Oh yeah, that's the other violence against women moment. Yeah, I'm telling you, there's something particularly brutal about seeing, because I mean, how much do you think? Okay, this is a really out of pocket question right now, but
Sure.
how much do you think Emma Stone like weighs? Because she like comes across as like, in this movie especially, or when she, is getting tortured and then he breaks her knee. I'm like, oh my god, this is like, I mean, I don't even know, like a 130-pound woman or something. I mean, she's not physically huge. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, maybe 130. I don't know. People listening to this podcast are gonna. This might be my craziest hot take on me guessing Emma Stone's weight out of nowhere, but specifically a woman who is smaller than the average man getting physically harmed is just so difficult to like watch. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It's like the ultimate way to like really drive like a uncomfortable feeling into the pit of people's stomachs when they see this film. And a lot of people that go to movies and you go on a date and stuff like that. So I can't even imagine the amount of couples that saw The Lobster and they're like, "All right, let's go to this one." And it's just Emma Stone who's just like a baddie getting like tortured, and then she's immediately, her hair is shaved off, and you're like, and that's one of her most iconic features, being a redhead. But it really, when she, her knee, I was almost thankful that it was just the knee at that point, because I was like, man, this movie could. And I've heard that as a criticism of this film. I've heard people suggest that it should have gone further as far as how disturbing it got. And I'm like, I don't know. I had a really tough time like seeing
Yeah.
her get beat up,
I think that'd be
because
something different.
the other thing is too that, well, when you you're already, as a human being, your morality is just brought out in such a forward way, because not even just that it's like this woman who, again, it's like physically, it's like, okay, like, why are you beating up someone that's smaller than you, right? Like Jesse Plemons is like bigger. I mean, she put up a pretty good fight when they were trying to like catch her, and she apparently her training MMA is like really funny. But
Yeah.
you kind of get what I mean. It's like the average man is just like physically bigger than the average woman, and in this film in particular, it's kind of like, okay, so you're gonna strap this woman down who you're already bigger than, and then you're gonna torture her. It's like you're kind of just like, okay, this is just so immoral. Like, it's just, and as a human being, it's like, it's just so obviously like just flies in the face of how our world should work. Like, it's just the most immoral thing to kidnap someone and torture them, and then you just add
Mm.
on top of that, they're like a gorgeous woman who's like smaller than you physically. It's like an unfair fight, every aspect of it, in terms of the violence perpetrated on her. But because I don't know if they wrote the movie. I don't know if the screenplay is trying to make her a little bit less likable by being this executive who's like very ruthless, to make it a little bit more acceptable that she's like, because I don't think it's quite like that. But there
Right.
is some of that. Like, her character, there is like a scathing feeling to her character where you're like, okay, but to some degree, this woman is the devil a little bit. Like, there is a little bit of that where you're like, okay, like, as a viewer, I think the average viewer would think about a successful corporate executive who has like a media personality, and they go, yeah, fuck that person. I think that person is very hated in this moment.
Mm.
Even the girl bosses, I think, have a lot of hatred against them.
Right.
Um, so there's some of that. There's some of this class thing that's being played with for uh Yorgos, but I don't know. I think ultimately the movie is on the side of this is fucking crazy. But then there's this whole sequence where she brings him to her office and everyone's like, "Oh my god, you've been missing." And who is this guy with you? And like she's like limping
She's also
noticeably.
wearing the wig, yeah.
Yeah, and then she's bald wearing a wig, which is just like that's like classic like Emma Stone, like just legendary Emma Stone. Emma Stone's like the picturesque like SNL guest host, you know? She's
Mm.
like she's like designed in a lab to host SNL. Like you put a silly wig on her and like her comedic timing and everything, she's just like a complete killer in terms of just being so funny. And that really does make me laugh. You reminding me that she's wearing a fucking wig because it looks so weird.
Yeah, and then she takes him to the office, and
Says you have to go,
it's
you have to teleport up to the ship and stuff. So how does the movie end again? Doesn't she like convinces him to do like going on? How does he die? Doesn't he die or some shit?
okay. So he's like, his plan is to, she's gonna take him to the ship so he can negotiate like a some sort of peace offer with the royals or whatever.
And
But
then
he has
yeah.
a backup plan that he shows her when they go in the office, that he's like has a fucking bomb strapped to his chest.
Oh yeah, he has a
And it's so weird. She's like, she has a calculator. She's like, oh, hold on. She's just like putting in numbers, and she's like, it's just a really long number. I'm trying to like remember it, but you have to like go in the closet. And you're thinking like, okay, she's just gonna wait till he goes in the closet and then just fucking dart out the door as like as limpy as she can, right? And
yeah.
the idea is that the closet in her office, just this like mundane fucking closet that anyone has in their office, is going to magically, just transport him to the ship.
Yeah.
And then she's like counting down like 3, 2, 1, and then he like blows up inside, and his fucking head goes flying, and and she's like knocked out, I guess.
She gets hit in the face with his
His face.
detached head.
Yeah. And it's like, oh my god. And she gets out, and she's being wielded in the ambulance, and she's like, oh, that guy's dead. And the nurse, and we'll talk about like theories about this, I guess, in a bit, but the nurse says something like, oh yeah, body heat, it can like set that thing off. Like like your body heat can like set off it can like malfunction easily or something. And she's like, he's for sure dead, right? And she's like, yeah. And she's like, okay. Then she gets out of the fucking ambulance, right?
Right.
And then just like walk into the office, and then she gets in the closet, and that's where I thought the movie was going to end. I was like, okay, what? But then, I don't know. After that, I'm really confused, because
then the movie leans into her like going back to her mothership and all that is the ending.
right, she actually, it's well, I guess not that it is the idea, but it's presenting where she does teleport to it, and she's actually
she teleports to the mothership, and then it's like everyone in these crazy like science fiction like costumes and like insane set design and like music, and then they're speaking an alien language, and there's subtitles for like the alien language.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, no, we were trying to talk to you, but he shaved your head, so we couldn't talk to you.
Yeah.
Which is one of the best lines of the movie for sure. Because I was thinking that the whole movie, I was like, if this movie, because it is kind of similar to the ending of Eddington in the sense of the unreliable narrator kind of has their vision like appreciated. Because like in Eddington, there's like this SEAL Team 6 Antifa terrorist squad that like tries to kill Joaquin. And then in this, you know, she actually is an alien. And then they like press a button and it kills everyone on Earth. And there's just this extended music sequence of every single person on Earth, like crowds of people, which is actually one of my favorite parts of the movie, too. When you're just showing
Yeah.
like all these people just lying on the ground dead. And it's like all types of people, like innocent people of all shapes and sizes. Like the diversity of it is so astonishing that you're like, all right, hell yeah. Kill all humanity. That's how I want a movie to end.
Right. I don't know. I think she isn't an alien, and it's just like a big look at like what we're fucking doing for no reason, like obsessing about these fucking things and worrying about these things in our lives, and it can all just be gone like that.
Uh-huh. Well, like
That's
I
how
was
I took
saying,
it.
like I was saying in the Mastermind episode we did, but also just in general with like literature, I feel like, you know, there's a lot of this in the history of whether it be novels or film. And you know, you'll have a film or a book that kind of hints at something and then it goes over the top in the ending. And it almost reminds me of the sequence in Kinds of Kindness where like there's like the island of dogs and like there's like the guitar.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were going to talk about like the last story
No,
when
you
they're trying
remember
to
like
find dead twins and stuff.
you remember when it cuts to like the dog like thing?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
It's like all these dogs like like aren't they like they're like driving cars and like doing
Yes.
wild
And
shit.
they're like having sex and stuff.
Yeah, and then it's just like rock music, and it's like this weird little vignette where this crazy ass story that Emma Stone is telling is actually true. Because that's kind of like Adolfo Bioy Caceres is a great Latin American writer who I feel like, I mean, I don't know if Yorgos is referring to this, but I actually read a book of his called Sleep in the Sun, this novel, and it really reminded me of that novel. This whole thing with like dogs, like I'm oh my god, I'm like butchering this. I mean, if we had done the Kinds of Kindness episode, I could like look up my review but you know, if we had done it at the time, you would have heard this bit.
Yeah.
But it does feel kind of like Latin American magical realism in the sense of it's like a leap, but it's for the joy of fiction. It's for the joy
Okay.
of fiction. It's for the joy of because Latin American literature, one of the most influential. So basically, Adolfo Bioy Casares, he wrote this book, The Invention of Moral, and in 1940. And that novel is just one of the greatest science fiction novels ever. It's only 100 pages long. You get to the end of it and your mind like melts because it's like one of these books where you don't know what's going on, but it sets a premise that is very specific and you don't know if you're going to get answers. And then the book answers every question you have and your brain is like melted. And it's like inventive. It's like one of the most inventive fiction, you know, novels ever. It very much influenced Jorge Luis Borges, who is one of the kings of short story writing. And Borges is the ultimate guy where you would read if you read like a 10-page Borges story, he starts at point A, he ends his story, and it's always like getting to the most mind expanding, clever conclusion that's like either paradoxical or allegorical that you can get to in a very few amount of words. So it's kind of specific, and he's not so much magical realism. He's much more kind of like parables and stuff. You know, it's kind of what we're talking about. It'll be like an old like he did a story about an alchemist and the young apprentice asking the alchemist if he can do something for him, like make gold out of, you know, something. And the alchemist saying, no, 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 you can't do that. You can't do that or something. And then the story ends with the alchemist like creating gold after like the apprentice leaves the room is like how it like ends is that he doesn't tell the apprentice I can create gold, but he can do it. And it's like a lot of those types of endings, right? There's a lot of what is possible. There's a lot of what are the parameters that the fiction is setting for me? And is the fiction implying that there is a result, or there is a resolution of the plot that will be fair as far as like what the reality is, or is it possible to, inside out the reality of the fiction in the last moments, or is fiction kind of hinting at all possibilities are on the table? And personally, my there's a lot to say about this. I mean, a lot of this is kind of like an emotional thing as well. Like, people make art because they're compelled to do it. It's not so much like they're logically thinking of it in this way, but you can look at this film in that way. You can look at Kinds of Kindness like that as well, because it really feels like a bunch of dreams all together in this way, like all the different people playing different roles and stuff. Like, it's Kinds of Kindness is very upfront that the movie is fake, like being an anthology, because that's already asking you as a viewer to suspend your disbelief. The fact that you're seeing all these different people play different characters, right? Like, it's immediately clear that they're not actually three different people. Like, they're either one person or another. And like, this is the kind of movie, Bugonia, where it really does open up this other door where you're like, okay, so what was that exactly? And I don't know. I didn't know for sure, because I was thinking the first time I watched this film, like before I got to the ending, I personally didn't see much evidence that she was an alien, like you were
Right.
saying earlier.
No, she's singing Chapel Roan in the fucking car. Like that person exists.
Yeah, because that seemed authentic, and there's like a very like down to earth reality about the whole movie up until the ending. And I love the ending. I love humanity getting killed. I thought that's how every movie should end, by the way. Every movie should end with
The
every
end.
person on earth dying. Like, that's a good ending. And
I
I
love
was
that.
more I was more because it's like, why not? You can do like films are just unimaginative. The average movie is unimaginative. The average film is bad. The average movie does not even consider how much it can do with very small, because it's not like, I feel like a lot of the budget, almost. I mean, maybe this is wrong, but some of those crowd sequences and like stuff on the highway and stuff, I'm like, this is some of the hardest to film material in the entire film, and it's like for like a 2-second shot at
Yeah.
time. And like, that's to me like where you spend like a budget. That's to me, because you don't need to do this huge thing. Like, you could, and it still does come across as huge, but it's not like it really reveals like how a movie can kind of do something way off the deep end, like that you wouldn't expect. And it's all options are possible because it's a fiction. The whole movie is not real. And I don't know if the comment is so much like it's an unreliable narrator, and this is all from the perspective of the dead. By the end of the movie, Jesse, who's dead, Jesse Plemons' character, I don't know if it is all from his perspective. I think it much more is kind of a comment on fiction than it is anything else. Because it is just kind of like, okay, well, she's in the ambulance, and okay, well, let's just go a completely different direction with it, and because otherwise it is kind of like almost feels like a play at times.
Oh
Like, if you're not
yeah.
going to do. Have you ever heard of the William Friedkin movie Bug?
I haven't seen it.
You've heard of it?
I don't think so.
It's pretty good. That was kind of my quick comparison of this film. It's uh also kind of about like a conspiracy theorist guy that like kind of goes crazy, and it's kind of set in his house, and he blocks all the windows with tinfoil, and he's spraying like poison everywhere to get rid of bugs. And in the movie, he goes on these unhinged rants about the government, and I think he goes on a rant about the Kennedy assassination at one point.
Oh my
And
god.
then he says that I served in Operation Desert Storm and the army experimented on me, and like all this kind of stuff. And that is a thing, that there are people that took part in Operation Desert Storm. That's like a rumor That's something I've heard but not verified, that there was, because there was this thing called Gulf War syndrome. A lot of the soldiers were coming back with something they were calling Gulf War syndrome. Patrice O'Neill, R.I.P., one of the great comics, he had this incredible bit on Opie and Anthony where he said that he had this insane conspiracy theory that because aspartame, he goes on this whole thing about aspartame being in Diet Coke, and he
Oh
says
yeah.
that aspartame causes cancer in like 100% of rats. And he's like, aspartame's in Diet Coke, and all these soldiers bring Diet Coke out in the middle of the desert in the Gulf War, and all this Diet Coke like expires and starts releasing like poison into the air. So all the soldiers go crazy. But I forget what the rumors were. There was something else. Like I think the military either gave all the soldiers like experimental medicine, or there was some weird shit going on with that deployment. And the other thing, if you see the movie Jarhead, uh, one of the things that's actually kind of fascinating about the Gulf War is that it's one of the ultimate fake wars. It's one of our most fake wars we've ever had. And everyone just kind of like rolled into Iraq. It was like a couple of days and it was over. So all these people like served in a war, and it was a win as well. People at the time thought of it as a win, but it was just like completely fake. So these soldiers who really went to a dark place, because it's like when you're in the military and stuff, you go into this mindset and then they just don't even see combat,
Yeah.
and then they're all coming back saying they have Gulf War syndrome, which is this kind of abstract idea, which some people would say is because they were experimented on, and which is kind of what Bug hints at. So I was kind of thinking about that when I saw Bugonia. I was like, okay, what is this guy's backstory? Does it ever really go into like what Jesse Plemons' like career is? Does it say like what he does for work?
I mean, there's like scenes of him at work, but I think
Oh yeah, that's right.
he's like packaging stuff and
Yeah, because he works for the company that she's the right. Isn't it like she's the like CEO of the company
yeah.
he works for? Okay, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, so it's interesting. I don't know what my final conclusion is. I don't know. I don't know. It's a hard movie to watch. It's kind of like a horror movie, but I did love the
Yeah.
ending.
I love the ending too. It was really moving too.
But I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts?
Well, there's two things I was thinking of. Was also when while he's at the hospital injecting antifreeze into his mom's body, she's finding like the heads of like dead corpses.
Uh-huh.
You remember that part? And then when he gets back,
Oh
she asks him
shit.
like how many of them were Andromedons.
Oh my
He's like
god.
two of them.
Jesus.
So even like even he's acknowledging he's killed people that aren't in his mind alien, which is crazy.
That is true. I forgot about that scene.
And then the couple that we were talking to at the end of the movie had an interesting take on Jesse Plemons blowing up in the closet. And
Okay.
their take was he was basically going to like do a suicide mission when he like got transported to the ship and like blow up the ship. So that's why when she says like 3, 2, 1, he blows up, he thought he was going to the ship and he like actually detonated on purpose. I thought I did not
Oh.
consider that at all, and I thought that was really interesting.
That's
'Cause
actually a great point.
I kind
That's
of just when the nurse said like, "Oh yeah, he just can accidentally detonate it. It can happen with like body heat or something." I just kind of like took that as what happened, but when they brought that up, it made me think a
that makes a
lot.
lot more sense. That when she said 1, he probably thought when she got to the end of her countdown, he probably thought, "Oh, I'm going to like be in the alien ship and it's my time to like save humanity."
Right.
How did she beam up? Did she just go in the closet and
She
then she
just
just
goes
gets
in the
beamed?
closet and like shuts it, and then she like that's it. And it's also really funny that his innards and everything are still just strewn throughout the room that he blew up in.
so so violent. Yeah, I think ultimately Yorgos, he's pushing, he tries to push people with his film. He tries to show, gross stuff, things that make you uncomfortable. He tries to make films that are divisive and also darkly funny. And ultimately, I think he's questioning human morality is one aspect of this. And he loves like stuff like this, right? Like cults, people buying into something that's like not real, or people buying into a strange interpretation of how to go about Earth, or go about experience and life.
Mm.
Um, but I think ultimately he does look at people as kind of like meat, like just a bunch of meat, like meat sacks or something. Like they're sweaty, bloody kind of bodies. Like he looks at bodies in the same way that, like I was saying with Dusan Makavejev with Sweet Movie, and there's a lot of sequences in Sweet Movie as far as like people like eating and stuff like that. There's like a grotesque aspect to humans in the sense that we have these fake moral systems that guide our world, and fake in the sense of like outside of humanity, like who gives a shit, like like it's just only applies to us, like some of our moral systems. But and I don't even say like every moral system, but I mean like like the cult moral system, or like I believe aliens are ruling the earth and they're going to destroy the earth moral system that Jesse
Mm.
Plemons has. Like all these different ways that people kind of interpret reality. I think Yorgos is interested in exploring that, and then ultimately he gets to this conclusion of like, yeah, we're just kind of like our guts, and we're like our organs, and we're just gross. We're just these gross like meat puppets that are extremely deranged and don't really aren't really close to knowing how to like organize like our world. Like we're very ineffectual in like having like a good like world is almost where I get with it, is because I almost do think that he's like almost like satirical in that way, like he almost is like, yeah, we're human society is very farcical to him, you know.
Mm.
But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say.
Yeah, I think we hit it.
Well, we'll be back soon.
All right.
God bless. Should I
Hey,
damn.
should release the files is what you should do.
Good night, folks.